Hello everyone and welcome back to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly update, give or take, on the miniatures I've been painting for the games we cover here on the channel. And this time around we have some scenery, which is rare for me because I hate painting scenery. We have a whole plethora of the new game that we're featuring on the channel, which is Warhammer Underworld. Got a little bit more of Fallout Wasteland Warfare and a little bit more of Battletech as well, and a very whiny dog, even though I just started. There's already a ball at my foot. Also, as just a note, if you are a channel member, I did an elongated video on a step-by-step on how I painted specifically one of the last things we'll talk about this week, which is the archer there at the back. I've already covered the colours used before for my Battletech colour scheme, but I went through it step-by-step just showing the build-up. So if you are a channel member, that video is there for you to watch. I kept it very short, just didn't do any time lapses or anything like that, but it's there if you want to watch it. Anyway though, we will start left to right as always. So, behold my rocks. We have many rocks here, 6 of them to be exact, 3D printed, not by me, I just found them, I think this was on Amazon actually, not eBay. So, super quick, I spray painted them all with Imperium Grey or something, it's the Citadel Grey spray paint, and then I dry brushed them with Grey Sear on top of that. I considered doing a wash after that to, just add a bit more definition. I considered doing maybe like just putting some PVA on parts of it and sticking some grass tuff to it, that kind of thing. But I liked how simple it looked with just the dry brushing. So at this point, I might change my mind down the line, but at this point I left it as is. And the thing I like about the particular scale of these rocks is that they'll actually fit a variety of different games. Like, if you put it next to a fairly large guy, because Sigmarines are pretty large, but it just looks like a large rock. You put it next to a mech, and it looks like a really big rock, but they both fit the same theme, so it can go across both scales and actually work pretty well. So it's mostly just as a matter of note, because there isn't much to see. I didn't do much to them, as I say, it's just literally a spray paint and a dry brushing on top. And you can sort of, like, part of the reason I didn't do the wash is because you can kind of see the filament lines from, the 3D print job. And I've learned from past experience, if you apply a wash to that kind of thing, it picks out those lines even more, so it can actually make things look a lot worse, because it will pick out each, like the slight gap each line of filament has, and it will make them more defined. So it can kind of take away from the overall quality, even at range, just because of the way that the wash will go into the wrong recesses. Like, you can kind of see it kind of bad there, just in general, just with the way it was printed. So that's why I didn't do it, and you'll be seeing these cropping up in probably pretty much everything we cover on the channel, because as I say, it'll fit any scale. It can be a small boulder, it can be a huge hill, it doesn't matter, it fits perfectly. And if you, I probably will at some point test on one of them, a little bit of PVC glue or PVA glue, whatever it's called, and just dip it in some grass and see how it will look, and make it look a bit more like a mountain, I guess, for mech scale games. But it might not. Yeah, I think if it had grass on it, it wouldn't suit looking person sized. But either way, super cheap. You can find them on Amazon, I'm pretty sure, or if you have a 3D printer, you can print your own, of course. So next, which takes up the majority of what we're going to be talking about this time, Warhammer Underworld's 3 warbands from the game finished already, one of which is from the starter set that the unboxing is already live. In fact, some of the games of this will be already up. It's a very quick game, it is very fast paced. I don't think it's super popular, especially by Games Workshop standards. I think it's even less popular than like Warcry and some of the other boxed games. It doesn't go anywhere close to the popularity of something like Blood Bowl, let's put it that way. But I like it. Played a few games of it now. It is super quick, it is super just all or nothing, and it has similarities to other games I've played. Like the objective cards are obviously very similar to Batman, but just the way it plays as well is just a deceptive depth, let's put it that way. So from the starter set, this is not the order in which I painted them, but it's the order in which we're going to talk about them. My first time painting Sigmarines, aka Stormcast Eternals, and I used a new contrast paint colour for these, although I'll talk about the basic colours I used first of all. So, Nazdrag yellow for the golden armour with a dry brushing of, it's called Necron something. It's a very dry dry brushing paint by Citadel meant for going on top of silver paint is to just give it a little bit of a gleam, and I'm really happy with the effect and how it turned out. The blue is it's called Celerium blue, I think. It's something like that, or Celerium. It's Celerium, I think. I might flash it up on the screen here if I'm misremembering. It's a new contrast paint I picked up, one of the newer blues. Honestly, it's very hard to tell the difference between this Ultramarines blue and Usherman blue. There's very little difference between the tones. The application may be a little bit different, but the tones not so much. I think this was Bal Red for the headdress thing. I've forgotten what they're called, the tassels, I don't know. With non-oil over everything afterwards as well. Black Templar for the black parts, Lead Belcher Silver for the silver parts of course, and just the base coat for the inside of their cloaks, and a mixture of a tiny bit of Wildwood and Skeletal Horde for their capes there. He was actually this third one I painted. The very first one I painted was this one, so this was my test one, which will be hopefully getting into focus. There we go. Yeah, he was my test one, and I actually think he turned out the best of the three, to be honest. I guess I took a bit more care with him. It's a little bit of snakebite leather for the tree stump he's standing on, and some striking scorpion, or the other one, no, mantis green for the leaves on his base there. Real impressive looking. I had no idea that Sigmarines were so swole, because I've never seen one. Well, I mean, I've never seen one in person, I should say. I saw them in the video game adaptation of Warhammer Underworld, but that was about it. Age of Sigmar is not something I'm super familiar with. So for this one, more or less the same colours. This is the boss, this is Far Strider himself, and he's the leader of the Far Striders. Only difference for the bird, Aethermatic blue mixing into that same blue, the other blue, and a little bit of purple, Luxian purple, just mixed in while it was wet, just to give it a bit more definition and colour. But yeah, they were fun to paint. It helps that, like, the really nice thing about Underworlds is the warbands. It can be between 3 and 6 or maybe 7 miniatures, and it can be as simple as, like, the other half of the starter set that these 3 are from is just a bunch of skeletons. But because you're never going to need more than that, they took the time to make each one feel very unique. There's no same sculpts, they're all fresh and different, and it makes it less annoying to paint because it doesn't feel like you're batch painting, even if it is just a bunch of skeletons, or we'll talk about it soon, a bunch of spooky ghosts in black cloaks. So next we have Black Powder and his pirate booty crew, and these were actually the ones that I painted for the game first. I happened to find them super cheap while I was waiting for the starter set arriving, so I was like, you know what, I'll give them a go. So we have a pirate ogre who is leading his warband of 2, I was going to say Gretchen, that's not the right name, Nobblers I think they're called in Age of Sigmar, and a monkey with a knife and his loyal bird. So colours wise, it's the usual colours for the most part. I used Space Wolves Grey for his trousers. I used a new brown for his boots because I picked up a couple of other new colours I hadn't tried yet, and I believe this one is called Rattling Grime. It's Rattling something, I think it's Rattling Grime. So it gives you that, it gives you a weathered leather look, which I actually really like. It's not as vibrant as something like Snakebite Leather, it's not as dark as something like Wildwood. It fits that kind of middle ground of just looking like tired leather. I think the intention obviously with the name like Rattling Grime is it's supposed to look, you know, sewer-like, I guess. But in terms of looking like exactly the type of leather I was looking for, I really like how that turned out. Perfect for those kind of like pirate booties, as it were. Other colours, Black Templar for the black parts, I think it was just Blood Angels Red for the red parts, and that's about it. Lead Belcher Silver, Snakebite Leather for some of the straps and the wood on the chest there, and non-oil over everything. For his crew, the monkey is just Gryph-hound Orange, which I'm disliking that as a contrast paint the more I use it, to be honest. I'm testing out a different one, but I want to talk about that next time because I want to try some more results. I think it's called Magma something. It's another new contrast paint. It rides the line between red and orange, but it leans more to orange. So I'm going to test that more, but either way, my favourite one from this warband, Monkey with a Knife. I think he has like 2 health, but either way, Gryph-hound Orange was the main colour. The bases are all done in Basilicanum Grey with a wash on top afterwards. The bird turned out a bit darker than I meant to do. It was a mixture of Bal Red and Blood Angels Red, but then the wash was applied a little bit too thick. I would have liked if this was a bit brighter still, but that's okay. And they're standing on some bones, some of them, so it's just skeletal horde for the bones. For the Nobblers, I used, I keep on calling it the Immortal Hulk green because I never remember what it's actually called. It's either something Mantis, so it's not Striking Scorpion, I think it's the other one. I keep on wanting to say Praying Mantis, but that's not it because it's a Eldar thing. But either way, I used that green, take a bit of leather for his rope and wash over the top. First time painting Nobblers / Gretchen as well, because I don't even have any, they're very small, don't even have any for Blood Bowl. So yeah, my first time painting a lot of New World, Age of Sigmar type stuff. He is pointing and stabbing, and the same colours, Volupus pink for his tongue because he had his mouth open. But not much else to say about the other one. I like the aesthetic of a ragtag pirate crew led by a troll who, if he gets sorry, not a troll. If he gets hungry enough, he will just eat them. So next we have the Headsmen's Curse, the last warband for now from Warhammer Underworlds. I love these models, I love the design. This is going back to what I was saying earlier about it's just 4 ghosts, but they've made each one look so unique and fit a theme. This guy is controlling the sword. That's the sword is kind of like the character here. So this is the bearer of the blade. So he is just a ghost, but the sword is the important part. And then you've got the sharpener of the blade, the person whose job it is to decide who the blade's going to kill, and then the hammer thing, the ambo thing for the bearer of the block. I love these miniatures. I don't really like the paint job I did on them. I don't think I got it quite as nice as I would have liked, but that's partly down to how much I like the models. I wish I did a better job on them. The colours I used Aethermatic Blue, I used I used Briar Queen Chill, sorry, because they are meant to be part of the Briar Queen thing, I think. Again, this is Sigmar stuff I don't know about. But I used a lot of Briar Queen Chill, some Biletang Green to kind of have that gradient effect there. And also for this one in particular, for the faces that are coming out the ground as he pulls the sword out. Just add a little bit of extra colorization. Just used Black Templar for their cloak. I did originally have some dry brushing, edge highlighting to try and show some detail. I didn't like how it looked, so I got rid of it, or really, you can kind of still see hints of it. I toned it down just because I feel like it looked better without. Could absolutely be wrong about that, but that's what I felt like. Oh, I used some of the Valero pigment paint for the dirt in the tomb that he's kind of come out of. The bases for these ones are lovely. There's some of presumably his bones there on the base as well. So then we have the weakest of the lot, the little ghost, who's going to be hard to get into focus. This is the sharpener of the blade. He is just doing that. One thing I will say about Warhammer Underworlds in general is they're running with the theme of push fit. You don't need glue technically to assemble any of the miniatures for them out of the starter set or out of a warband box. They're all push fit, and push fit is not always a good thing because sometimes they don't push together right. I'm in the process of assembling the other half of the starter box that came with them, which is the warband of skeletons, and the skeletons' arms are so flimsy and thin, 2 of them have bent, 1 of them have snapped, and 1 of their heads snapped off. Just from you have to apply a little bit of pressure to make push fit stick in right to line up the lines, the mold lines, and they're not built for that. Sometimes glue is better. Sometimes dead is better, sometimes glue is better. And I'm not a fan of how Games Workshop do their push fit. It doesn't seem that big of a bonus to me to not need to use paint, because the assembly is part of the process, and push fit is just frustrating. Anyway, I love this guy. He's just pointing at the list saying, hey, your name's on here. That's not going to end well for you. Only other extra colours, Skeletal Horde for the scroll, and again that green I was talking about earlier for in his ink pot, his feather, and also in the end of his finger. He's probably my favourite of the lot. I like how happy he is while he's pointing at his list. The bearer of the block here, he was the most annoying to put together. His lines do not line up at all, and that was despite trying really hard with the push fit. It just doesn't line up very well, and he is a little bit lopsided, so any slight pressure will make him tip over. He's not weighed correctly. This anvil should have been slightly heavier to offset the rest of him, and it's not. Or had an anchor point. I kind of forced an anchor point by using some super glue, but he still tips, just with the slightest provocation. You can kind of see, actually he's keeping his balance pretty well here, but I've knocked him over a few times, and it is down to him being lopsided slightly. But it's a neat pose, don't get me wrong. Just I feel like it could have been weighted a little bit better. So as a matter of note, we have 2 more Raiders from Wasteland Warfare. Getting through them, I believe there's 2 left, 2.5 left, because I've got 1/2 done on the table. So we have Pigtails here, a Raider who is brandishing a tire iron and just charging forwards. I didn't use anything in particular different from her. Still making really good use out of the Army Painter dry rust paint. I really like that, and it fits fully Wasteland Warfare miniatures really well. Also not having any issue with them doing the thing. Talked about that last time, and it's still true so far. I don't know if it was because the water was super hot that I cleaned them in or what, but I haven't had any issue, and that's despite them being from the 2018 range. I kind of like the implied story of this guy. I'm not sure if it was meant this way, but it's the way I painted it. I made it kind of look like he's from a vault, but he's turned to Raiderish ways, so it's kind of got the hints. Hopefully that's in focus now. It's kind of got the hints of a vault jumpsuit underneath all that rubbish rusted Raider armor. That was just Talisar blue, I believe, for the blue used here. But yeah, just the hints that underneath he might have been a vault dweller and took the wrong path, as it were. So not much else to say about them. Again, just as a matter of note, still been getting through a lot of painting in general because it's been too warm, and that it's annoying to record in extreme heat. Painting though I find quite relaxing when it's warm, so hence all the models we've been painting here. Last but not least, to wrap things up this time, we have 2 trash cans, aka urban mechs, and the archer I mentioned at the top of the video right here, finished for Battletech. Again, done in my own mercenary company's colours that I used for the video game adaptations of Battletech, called Flix Marauders, just because that's your name plus Marauder is the default for Mech Warrior 5. So the little urban mechs, I'm not going to bother talking about the paint scheme again because it's literally the same colours as I was mentioning last time when I first showed off the paint jobs. But as a matter of note, urban mech, they're very funny. We've actually made a murder one of those in Mech Warrior 5. Applied a ridiculously powerful, what was it, a heavy rifle I think? Given it a heavy rifle, and as long as you can keep it alive, the heavy rifle it lets him do a scary amount of damage for taking out mechs way above their weight limit. Some people hate urban mechs, as I understand it. I think they're hilarious. Little peacekeeping trash cans not meant for warfare. And the archer is just one of my favourite mechs in general. I like missile boats, I like gunboats, but just the design of the archer just aesthetically appeals to me. So I'm not going to talk much about this one because there is that other video I mentioned, but it is done. I think I applied a bit too much of the pigment, the dust pigment, to his feet for showing how dusty he is. But the nice thing about that is it's actually super easy to clean off. You can clean off the excess. If you use some water, you'll actually be able to clean all of it off, I think. I haven't tested that, but I'm pretty sure that's how that would be enough. In terms of other models I plan to paint for Battletech, I do plan to paint the Alpha Strike starter set at some point, and that won't be painted in that colour scheme. It comes with a different mercenary band called the Northwind Highlanders, and it comes with a clan. I think Jade Falcon, but I can't quite remember. So I'm going to be painting those in their accurate colour schemes, so I will be testing different colour schemes for Battletech stuff. For models I'm going to be painting still in my colour scheme though, just because I've been using them in the video game. I do plan to paint up the Marauder here in that style, and also the Axeman in that style. I haven't actually been using the Axeman, but I have one, so at least I have a proper reference for matching up the colour scheme to my in-game style. But yeah, that is going to do it for another painting update. If you want to show me what you've been painting, feel free to do so on Twitter or Discord if you're in the Discord. And I hope this inspires you to get through your pile of grey shame, especially if you're stuck in Europe right now, which is under a heat wave. It's not the time to be active and doing stuff. Just chill in the shade with a nice drink and paint stuff. That is my advice. But here at least we had like a week of nice warm weather, and now we're back to pouring rain. So I guess that means I'll have less time for painting because I can get back to recording more videos properly. Either way though, thank you very much for watching. Hope this inspired you to get some painting done. And I'll see you again in a couple of weeks for another update. Until then, it's time for now.